Hi, I'm DrAshleyPierre, and please allow me to introduce myself. I have over 15 years in the IT industry. I have a bachelor's in computer science from the University of North Florida. I have a master's degree in business and information systems from the University of Texas at Dallas. I also have a doctorate degree in computer science with a concentration in enterprise information systems from Colorado Technical University. Currently, I am the business systems engineer for the Dallas Cowboys, and I've been there for the past 10 years, supervising enterprise systems such as ERP systems, POS systems, warehouse management systems, and all the systems in between. I've been involved in implementation cycles. I've been involved with system specifications as well as vendor meetings and speccing out the software that needs to be provided to accomplish our business goals. Hi, let's talk about ERP systems. What are ERP systems? When I think about ERP systems, we think about the enterprise, we're thinking about planning, and we're thinking about resources. So let's talk about an enterprise. An enterprise is really an organization of people, and those people are broken up into various departments. And let's say that every department, for example, the accounts payables or AP, or accounts receivables, AR, HR for human resources, inventory, warehouse and distribution, sales departments. Each of those departments have their own systems. They have their own way of doing businesses or conducting business on an everyday basis. You may have a person from accounts receivables, and they want to make sure that the money is coming into the company and that they're billing their customers appropriately. Or you may have your accounts payables, people who are creating purchase orders and making sure that product is being received into the company. Or your sales team, they want to make sure that they're taking orders from the customers and being able to take that sales order and translate it into actual sales. Now, could you imagine if each one of those companies or each one of those divisions had their own systems? Well, they couldn't share information together. And so that's the whole purpose of an enterprise resource planning system, is that you have a bunch of different departments within the company, and they're all sharing information. For example, the sales team may create a sales order. However, the information in that sales order is translated and moved and used by the accounts receivable department, or maybe the accounts payable department. See, every division in the company looks at information in their own different way, in their own different light. However, it's the same information that's being moved from one part of the company and one division to another. So, when you think about also enterprise resource planning systems, you think about planning. And when you think about planning, you think about strategy. Okay? You have these systems, and what they do, they form basically an umbrella of encompassing all the needs of an organization. All of the needs, the business needs, the information needs, the communication needs of all these different departments under one encompassing system. So let's talk about some of the philosophies behind the ERP system. One misconception is that the IT department should drive the ERP system. What I mean by drive is that the IT department controls the system. And that's not necessarily true. In reality, it's the business users that actually drive the system. You have the accountants, you have people entering sales orders, you have the subject matter experts, and these are the people who have used the system, and people who, more importantly, not only use the system, but they understand the business behind the system, because information systems is not driven by the technical people who implement the system. Rather, it is driven by the business. And so from the business, you get the subject matter experts, and from the subject matter experts, you understand how the business is supposed to behave and how the business is supposed to act. Let's talk about the analysis of enterprise resource planning systems and the company needs. When you think about planning or implementing an ERP system from an overall perspective, you need to know what are your capabilities for your organizations. What infrastructure is available for your company, or what infrastructure resources you have available to support the ERP systems. These are typically huge systems. They require a lot of memory, a lot of bandwidth, and so you have to think about, what are you putting your enterprise resource planning system, what environment it's going to be housed in, because if it's not housed or spec'd out correctly, your ERP system may run into issues or problems, performance issues down the line. So that's one of the things you need to do. You need to think about sizing and requirements. Your system architecture, how is everything laid out? How many databases you're going to need to support the system. So architecture is very much important in what you need to do. Let's talk about some of the pitfalls and some of the issues that can happen during implementation or thinking about it. Number one, I guess one of the most important things you need to think about is the implementation partner that you have. The implementation partner needs to be hand in hand and step in step with your organization, meaning that not only do they need to have the skills and the resources available to help you during every step of the way, from implementation to deployment, but they also need a match up in culture. You make sure that if you're a small to medium-sized business, that you match up with an implementation partner who understands your needs and better able to communicate what are your needs and what are other issues that you may run into. You don't want an implementation partner that's so big that you feel like you're one of many customers. You do want a match in implementation partners, because you'll be able to effectively communicate your needs, and they'll be able to effectively communicate the path that they want you to take during the implementation cycle. You want to also make sure that you understand the scope of the project. Make sure that your scope of your whole project doesn't grow to a point where it's unmanageable and you actually end up with a never-ending implementation cycle. You also want management buy-in, executive support. Without buy-in and support from the upper management, your ERP system will not be able to go through a successful implementation, because the company is not divesting the correct resources and the time to the project. So management buy-in is very important and critical to ERP system implementation. Also, you want to think about system integration. Not all ERP systems operate on their own. As a matter of fact, there's other systems and subsystems that feed into these ERP systems. Maybe systems such as POS systems. How about your e-commerce systems from the website? You may also have other EDI systems that feed data from other customers. You may have customer CRM systems, customer relationship management systems. And so We're moving from a point where ERP systems typically used to take care of or supposed to control every aspect, but now in the industry we're seeing a trend towards the best of breed, where you have this ERP system and then you have the best of breed application being integrated into the ERP system, such that there is you have a solution, a very well established solution for a company, such as maybe a warehouse management system. Not all ERP systems are great in warehouse management. However, there are third-party applications and systems that may be able to integrate into this ERP system. And so that's one of those things you need to think about when you're thinking about the whole ERP system implementation and life cycle. So, the market for ERP systems is huge. However, the numbers of successes and failures are also big. Failures can be avoided by thoroughly understanding the business and fully capturing the business requirements. When you don't capture the business requirements, then you tend to introduce scope creep, and that lengthens and actually increases the risk for failure. Let's talk about the challenges about ERP systems. And when considering ERP systems, there are three important things you need to consider. Number one, ease of use of the ERP system. With any system, the easier it is to use, the better it is for users or end users to actually use the system to perform their job. Ease of use is very important and very critical into the technological acceptance and use of any systems, which ERP systems are also included in that group. You must have robust financial management capabilities. Of course, you need to make sure that everything is controlled, the finances are captured, the reporting needs are easily accessible and understandable and presented in such a way that you can easily retrieve and understand and digest information. You must also think about total cost of ownership. For example, what are the costs of maintenance on the system? What are the maintenance, the cost of plugins or extra capabilities to be added, programming or system redesigns or business process changes. So you must think of all those licensing as well, licenses per user, licenses for every module. So you have to think about in the long term, what are the total costs of the ERP system from the deployment onto the entire life cycle. So, what is the cost for implementing an ERP system? My personal experience, I work primarily in Microsoft Dynamics AX, which is an ERP system designed for small to mid-sized companies. And in my experience, I've seen that the implementation falls just under $10 million, which ERP systems such as SAP systems may exceed that and cost much more, from over 10 million to perhaps even to about 100 million. So it depends. So you need to make sure that the ERP system that you choose is well matched up with the size of your company. So when you think about ERP systems, you must think about business processes. And when you think about business processes, you may think about business process re-engineering. You may need to change the way that you do business to fit in line with the ERP system. And I guess the ERP system is supposed to represent the industry's best practices for performing a job. However, It's also a canned method, and so depending on the industry that you're in and the uniqueness of your business, you may need to change some business processes that came already packaged with the system. Think about the technology that you need. There's portals, intranet sites that may plug into the ERP system, employee self-services, change. So all these things require a solid change management strategy that will be able to help the end user transition from the previous ERP system or previous system into the new system, and help them adapt and get them productive quickly as possible. You also need upper management support. As was discussed in the previous segment, you need a buy-in, you need support from the staff, and they'll be able to provide external resources that you need, the extra training that you need to help the users gain familiarity with the system. You also need the organizational structure to implement these changes. Usually you have your project manager, your business analyst, you also have your IT support team, as well as your subject matter experts. And here's one thing that you may want to consider. The important part in this, the important component, is the business analyst. And they're the ones who challenge the way that the system is performing its business. They're the ones who take the business processes and break it down into its components and really understand and say, hey, is this component, is this process really necessary? Are there any better ways of doing this? And if there are any better ways of doing this, how can we implement this process change into the ERP system? So, let's talk about supply chain management and the differences between the push supply and the pull supply chains. So, the way I can describe this is the push system is an antiquated system. It uses up a lot of inventory. You have to keep a lot of inventory on hand. And when you think about inventory, it costs money. You have to spend money to house the inventory in a warehouse. So when I think about push, think of maybe McDonald's. It's close to lunchtime, and so they're going to prepare, let's say, 1,000 hamburgers and have those hamburgers sit under a heat lamp until the customer is ready to purchase or deplete the inventory. So that's an old and antiquated system. When you think about more recent, the systems, the technology that's available these days enable more of a pull strategy, meaning that a pull is more of like a made to order. You may pull inventory from all different parts to assemble the product and to serve that product to the customer in a very efficient manner, and of course the product is fresher and better. All due to the amount of technology that is able to allow this to happen. So those are my analogies as far as a push versus pull system. And when you think about it, the push system is more about the supplier dictating. However, the pull system is more controlled by the customer. The customer is the one who initiates the request, which is more efficient for businesses. And it's more in tune and actually enables the whole enterprise to be more responsive. Also, push systems are also based on forecasted models, which are set in stone. Once you're with the forecast, you're stuck with it, and you execute and hope that the actual reality, the actual data, what's happening out there in the market matches your forecast. However, when you're talking about pull, it's more realistic, it's more real time, and so you're more responsive and more able and more apt to, more flexible, you're more adaptable, and you're actually more capable to react to changes out there in the marketplace much more efficiently and effectively. So let's talk about EDI. EDI stands for Electronic Data Interchange. Now, when you talk about EDI, there's two ways I'm going to describe EDI. EDI is also used in business-to-business transactions. And so when you think about that, business-to-business, you can say that EDI is also a standard for communicating among companies. EDI is really a text file which you have different types of data in that text file, which represents different things such as order information, product information that companies use to communicate and send orders to and from each other. You have different types of EDI documents, and these are the documents that are passed between companies. You may have purchase orders, you may have advanced shipment notices, which are ASNs. You may have purchase order acknowledgments, or you may have item files. So company A may need to order from company B, and so sends a purchase order to company B, and company B sends an acknowledgement back to company A, letting company A know that yes, we have received orders and we are going to send them to you. As far as ERP systems and EDI systems, the EDI systems is a separate subsystem, and so that's what I mentioned before, that your ERP system has got to be capable to integrate with other systems, because typically EDI systems are their own module or component that fit inside the ERP system, and so when an order information comes in from an external source, it will need to go into this EDI system and goes through its transformations and enter into the ERP system as a sales order or a purchase order, or in a way that can be easily digestible and understood for the rest of the company. So when you think about it, as far as thinking about the requirements, these are the type of things that you need to do. You need to understand that there are systems and there are components that need to mesh correctly with the ERP system, such that the rest of the business can perform and operate normally.